What up everyone, it's your man XMan87 here, bringing you another top 10 video, and what I have for you today is one of my subcategories for legends I like to do for fun, and we're going to be looking at my top 10 favorite Marvel legends in other media, which means the figures outside of the comic books based on their genre, from a mixture of animation, video games, live action TV series, and MCU movies. Same like I did last year, I didn't think this list was going to happen since I stopped collecting movie figures. I'd rather get Gamerverse and animated properties instead, but I just bought the few that I liked, and I bought enough to fill up this list. So before we get into everything, if you could please leave a thumbs up, like rating on the video, it'll help show your support for my channel and I greatly appreciate it. Just a few quick honorable mentions. I have Cyborg Spider-Woman from the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse film. What can I say? I like big, beefy figures. Needed an all-hand besides that open hand like a fist, but the heavy sculpting is superb. Got Peter and MJ from the Spider-Man 90s animated series. Always wanted a Peter Parker from the animated series, but I prefer his default polo look. They nailed the head sculpt though. MJ is another one I wanted from that show too, and this couple looks great together. So you know how this list works if you've been following me on my channel, so without further ado, let's get ready to count down! Kicking things off at the number 10 spot, Bishop. I wish the first Bishop we got was done like this. He's pretty much an all-new sculpt from scratch. He's got a great physique. They gave him the proper size and they improved the obliques and chest expansion to give him a more V-shaped angular body. You can't see it, but he has a good sized expansive chest because his scarf is covering it. He even has the proper legs. Most impressive thing about them is they made the left knee joint yellow to line up with the yellow stripes on the front and back of his legs. Proper aesthetics from the thigh pads, belt, bands, boots, collar. A great head sculpt. They put the last Bishop to shame. What a great figure. At number 9, Sandman. Now at first, I have to say that I was not impressed when it was first revealed. The pinless joints didn't match the plastic on the body in the product shots, and no inverted ab crunch making the lower torso look too plain. But then I came around to it. Initially, I wasn't going to get it. I had to convince myself to get it, and you know how I ended up convincing myself? Because after playing the opening scene in Spider-Man 2 PS5 and seeing all the Sandman duplicates, or Sandmen as I like to call them, I said, hold up, it's army building time, and you guys know I love to do that. I need no more convincing. I was sold. So I'm not even going to display him with my movie figures. He's going on my Gamerverse shelf to fight my Insomniac game Spider-Man so that I can help world build Earth 1048 in my collection. But you know what? As cool as he looks army built after having him in hand, he's a fantastic figure. I like to say fantastic, haha, but great sandy textures and some dirty spots. It proved me wrong, and I am happy I didn't initially pass up on him. It caught me by surprise, and I like that. Number 8, Tracksuit Mafia. The minute I saw these revealed, I knew I had to get them. One thing I needed in my collection were street level thugs to army build on to go up against any of my street level heroes. They have a ton of weapons to sell that kind of street level scenery through photography. A Molotov cocktail with a flaming effect? Sign me up for that, as I've always wanted an accessory like that for Marvel Legends. Even the golf club was a neat new accessory to see. The variety to display multiple heads is what does it for me. Mainly the burglar mask, because just like Sandman, I also army built these to world build on my Earth 1048 Insomniac game Spider-Man, as they did appear in Spider-Man PS4. So I'll be putting these on my Gamerverse shelves for sure. They pose very well for Legend standards. I love these, but it was a pain in the ass to get. Please stop doing army builders as exclusives, Hasbro. It's not consumer friendly. Hopefully they distribute more so that I can grab a few more. Big Bad Toy Store has some up for pre-order, but I can't rely on that. Can't trust it, as I feel like it'll get canceled, but we'll see. If you wanted these but missed out, I hope Hasbro does right by you to distribute more, because these are some really fun figures and I want you to enjoy them like I am. Number 7, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Man, this figure got so much unnecessary hate online that it didn't deserve, and I know I'm in the minority on this one, but I genuinely like this figure. Like I say, to each their own. By no means is this perfect. It still has its flaws like the shoulders and chest not being as puffy, but still overall better in other areas. I'm not nitpicking the mask like the Raimi purists have been, as he still looks like freaking Spider-Man to me. This is the retro carded one on display and not my 3-pack one, so the lens are closer with the black trimming and darker spider logo. So the head is much better on this one and not as gappy as the 3-pack one. Speaking of heads, I like the Toby head as I prefer it over the SH Figuarts one. The torso articulation, breaking up the web line patterns, creating a zigzag on the outer trim needs to be fixed with some retooling. Also, the red is a tad bit darker on this one, not by much. Could have used some more details to bring out the textures in the red, but I love the soft textures on the blue, the raised webbing, the silver web paint is a little more accurate on and solid on mine, thankfully. If you have this one, there was no need for the 3-pack. You'll pay way less if you wanted 1, 2, or 3 of the new Spider-Mans. You just lose out on extra hands. Hasbro did wrong by the consumer there. I can't let that go unnoticed. I hope there are other ways they can offer a Toby and Andrew with extra heads and hands all together at once. A hand with Toby holding his mask would be ideal too. Anyways, I can't lie and say that I didn't have fun posing this figure because I love posing him around and recreating all those iconic poses from the movie. Number 6, Smythe. Growing up as a huge fan of the Spider-Man 90s animated series, Smythe was one of those odd Spidey villains I was exposed to first from the cartoons before getting to know him in the comics. His Toy Biz vintage figures were always toyetic to me, whether it was by himself, in the chair, or paired with the Spider Slayer. I felt that he could make for a great Marvel Legends, and a great job they did here. Pretty much another all-new sculpt from scratch. The physique is pretty spot on and went as far as texturizing his entire legs, giving him the toe claws. Those fins, or whatever you want to call it, I'm just calling them fins for now, are fine-tuned with some nice mixed paint details along with his shoulder blasters. The shoulder blasters would have been better if he had some effects to display them blasting. He does have all hands for accessories, but would have been nice to have an alt head with an angrier expression. Still, the head sculpt on this guy captures the look of the character incredibly. Hope they release his chair, maybe with a Spider Slayer to complement him. Could those be bundled in a potential HasLab? I don't know, but I'd love to see it released somehow. Great thing about this figure is that you can display him with your comic figures too, as they kept him comic accurate in the cartoon. Number 5, Final Swing Spider-Man. This is one pretty looking Spider-Man movie figure. The bright red and the shimmery blue just hits so well. Then the glossy black web lines to make it pop even more. It's just so damn good to look at. My only problem is that his arms are too damn long, messing up the anatomy. When you look at him straight in vanilla posed, it's very noticeable and annoying, so it's best to leave him posed up, hiding that big flaw. They need to work on not making the arms so lanky on these figures. But speaking of posing, the posing is damn good on this figure. You'll get the desired range on most areas. The sculpture for the raised webbing is consistent. Unlike Toby's, the articulation points do not create a zigzag pattern on the outer web trim of the torso. A great head sculpt with an additional Tom Holland head and all sets of hands that should be standard for every Spidey figure at the bare minimum. This figure is one of the best Spider-Man figures of 2023. Number 4, X-Men 97 Wolverine. Okay, I'm just gonna start and say that this Wolverine has already replaced my comic one on display, and that's a big deal. Fans of the line say this is the best Legends Wolverine. I can't find the reason why it's not. Like I said, if it replaced my comic version on display, then that says something. Our first pinless Wolverine in this particular costume, and it looks great. The only thing that puts me off with this figure is the glossiness and the sculpted hairs on the arms. I hate that. It looks more like burnt or scarred up skin than hair. They should have not sculpted that area and just lightly paint the hairs like they have done a few times in the past. Everything else is pretty damn solid. The masked head sculpt is my favorite, and then I like the animated claws. Silver paint on the claws would have made this so much better, but those two visuals for me right there, the mask and the claws, easily draws me to this figure. Number 3. No Way Home Green Goblin. As much as I was let down by the articulation and how wonky he can look on the glider with no ankle swivels to compensate a natural gliding stance, my eyes just keeps magnetically turning over to the shelf that I have him on. He ends up being the first thing I look at over anything else on that shelf. He's that much of an attention getter for me. They had no business going that hard on the aesthetics, but they did. It's glorious. I know I said he looks wonky on the glider due to some janky leg articulation, but at the same time, he looks so good on the glider too. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it, but the glider did come out amazing and has good articulation points. I really need them to give us new stands too. This stand easily tops over and we need something sturdier to support the weight. A stand with hard ratcheted joints or an effects base underneath would help. Both head sculpts are stellar. The Willem Dafoe head looks so sadistic, but for some reason, even though he didn't wear the mask with this suit on, but he looks so much better with the mask on. Must be those horrible yellow eyes. A moment of silence for Aunt May's prayer. So a good selection of accessories, but definitely needed all hands, especially at a staggering $50 price point. The paint job is wonderfully done throughout, and the green armor just slaps all around. One of this year's main highlights and a fan favorite. Very deserving on any top 10 spot. Number 2, The Amazing Spider-Man. This to me is the best Marvel Legends Spider-Man figure of 2023. If I had to make a combined list of comics, movies, cartoons, and such, he'd still make the cut. Andrew is my favorite live-action Spider-Man, and I wanted him immortalized properly in Marvel Legends. This is by far my favorite figure out of the No Way Home Spideys. It's a solid and sleek sculpture. They got his lanky proportions right, I feel. I'm in favor of the darker color tones. The glossy black cobwebbing just adds so much of a striking visual appeal that complements those darker tones. He's wonderfully textured throughout, solid articulation. Just wish he had a little more range in the diaphragm. If they had the back spider logo not overlapping the cobwebbing pattern, adjusted the feet, adjusted the upper torso swivel so he can bend over more, and painted the web shooters, then he would have been perfect. The Andrew Garfield head sculpt was icing on the cake for me as they nailed his likeness down. This is now my favorite Spider-Man movie figure in Legends ever. At the number 1 spot, it is Doc Ock from the 90s Spider-Man animated series. This version of Doc Ock is the version I wanted most, more than any Doc Ock iteration. As much of a comics guy that I am, I will always prefer the animated series Doc Ock over the comic. He just had more of a badass look. I had my complaints about this figure just like anyone, but I still kept coming back to this figure because I couldn't help it. I absolutely love this figure. They still need to make adjustments for the next time they do a Doc Ock, such as using harder plastic and making his tentacles with ratcheting sockets for more stability. While frustrating at times to try and capture some poses, I'm still having a lot of fun with these tentacles and figuring out what I can and can't pull off. I've surprisingly pulled off some that I didn't think I could. My favorite is still being able to levitate him on all 4 tentacles. Even if it doesn't hold up for long, it's still satisfying to pull off. Another thing is that his tentacles are backwards compatible with the classic comic Doc Ock. It looks so much better now with the swap. I'm very appreciative that they've given us this bendable function this time around, as those pre-posed sculpted tentacles that weren't bendable limited your playability. So yeah, while there are still some limitations, I'm not completely limited. The aesthetics and sculpt are beautiful, but I felt some black tracing could have really took it up a notch. Articulation is good, alt hands, the head sculpt translated so well from animation to figure form, it looks stellar. Would have loved another head portrait though. Overall, this figure hits home for me. Growing up with the Spider-Man 90s animated series, this was my definitive Doc Ock look to me. So not only do I want my Spider-Man shelf to be thematically comic-based, but animated series inspired too, as this replaced my comic one on the shelf. Now we kick it back to you. What was your favorite non-comic Marvel Legends figure? What is your top 10 list for this subcategory? Comment below, let me know, we'll chat about it. Thanks for watching another top 10 video. Please follow me on Instagram if you haven't already at xman87. Hit the notification bell so you always know when my latest videos are up. Share and subscribe if you're new. See you on the next video. Peace.